meeting of the Cromwell Community Board. It's my great pleasure to welcome our newly appointed Mayor, Tamer Ali. Welcome to Cromwell and to our board meeting. Cromwell has, of course, always been a challenging board for our mayors and other elected members and our staff. So we hope to continue to bring you excitement, entertainment and challenge in your new role while you attend our meetings. So welcome also to the members of the public who are here today. Great to see a full gallery for the start of the meeting. And if there's any members of the media online, welcome to them as well. Welcome to our staff and Peter, our CEO. It's great to have everybody here. And the first item on my agenda is to go through our apologies. So we do have an apology from Bob Scott today and from Mary McConnell, who are both unable to join us for this part of the meeting. Do I have a move that in a second for those apologies? Please, thank you. So that was Sarah. Members of the public who are presenting to us today for our public forum. First of whom is Kate Seymour, talking about Cromwell Cemetery. So welcome. And members, you have got a paper in front of you to go with this presentation. Welcome, Jill.
Hello. My name's Jill Sanders. I've had a very strong vested interest in the cemetery. My first people in my family settled here in Cromwell in 1864, and they're buried here. So it's quite sad to see the cemetery in the state it's in. We requested to meet with you again to raise the following points discussed at our Friends of the Cemetery meeting on the 29th of October. Given that districtisation will see responsibility for the upkeep and restoration of the cemetery pass on to the CODC, we would like to have the following included in a revised plan. These requests are based on what we have identified as first steps in renovating the cemetery and bringing it up to a standard commensurate with other cemeteries in the area, as like in Alexandra. These things are building or reinstating the fencing on 3 sides, east, north and west, which will encompass future development areas as per stage 4 and 5 of the plan. Building a temporary rabbit-proof fence along the southern boundary, that's which will be replaced hopefully with a stone wall in the future. 2 entrances as per the current concept plan and creation of a parking area and ablutions block as per the stage 3 area. Pine trees deemed to be safe and healthy to be shaved and topped. Removal of pine tree stumps from the east side. And water connections, so a drip line could be installed to provide irrigation for future plants. We know water and sewage lines are about to be dug along the southern boundary, providing an ideal opportunity to provide connections to the cemetery. Further considerations are, and queries, proposed crematorium and service area. Costly for a crematorium. This is necessary. There's an operating crematorium between Spay and Alexandra. To create a garden strip in the entrance area. There's been strong interest to replant with almond trees, historical almond trees, seed have been carefully propagated, replanting with those. Parking to be relocated to the southwest corner and funding to develop a landscape there. We note that approximately 21,000 has been allocated within this budget for cemetery works. We subsequently learned that this amount has been tagged for maintenance, and I quote, burials, mowing, weed spraying, tree maintenance, etc. And as an aside, doesn't the council charge for the burials? I'm not sure how that goes through maintenance stuff. We believe the etc. On this quote, which is falling under the maintenance umbrella, involves repairing a badly maintained rabbit fence on the western boundary. It's old, it's falling apart, it hasn't been maintained for whatever reason. Similarly, the reinstatement of water, which is clearly also not being maintained. There is a tap, no water. Why not? As a start, we would like to see these two things be reinstated within the current year's maintenance budget. Can we please think that on this? Furthermore, we request past year budgets be made available to us, showing the allocation of funds and amounts spent. To conclude, Cromwell Cemetery has been shamefully affected. We belong to a small group of motivated residents who are anxious to initiate some improvements sooner rather than later. And we ask support from the council, community and the council.
Thank you for your presentation. Are you able to email that list through, or have you already sent it to somebody?
Okay.
That would be great, because obviously you've brought up quite a lot of points there that I know that when we talk about funding and of amounts that are like $23,000, they don't go very far towards some of the things that we're talking about there.
We understand that.
So then that becomes part of that conversation that goes into that long-term planning and annual planning where funds are allocated for services. So it would be really useful to have that so that they can.
I think the thing is that cemetery too is that there's very little maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done, but there's very little maintenance that is obviously done. So if maintenance is just mowing the lawn, there's not much grass there to mow. If it's actually tending to trees and plants, there aren't many trees and plants apart from, those big dark pine trees all the way around it. But there's nothing really there at all.
Yeah, and so we would need to drill down into what that actually is, because I'm not sure that anybody sitting around this table would have intimate knowledge of exactly what that has been over time. But I mean, you raise a really good, some really good points about the fact that this is an area that should be a space for families to be able to go, and should be the sort of space that encourages and encompasses them to be able to have remembrance rather than to be worried about that it's looking scruffy. Does everyone else have anything?
Well, I must admit that last time you came with useful photos, that was quite, it's quite shocking, really. So I do agree with you that it is very tired in being negative.
At the risk of being mistaken about it,
Yeah.
And I went to the Alexandra Cemetery last week, and that's actually quite tranquil. That's actually lovely, tranquil cemetery to drive through, and there were a couple of people who parked their cars and they were eating lunch there, just go somewhere quiet and pretty, and there's lots of specimen trees there, and it says welcome and remember.
So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm sure that members of the Parks team who might be here will have taken some note, but if you would email me through your presentation, that would be awesome. Thank you.
You also have on file from last time the video that was taken and presented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. And next we have Rob Vandermark from Sustainable Terrace. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Rob Bendemark. I'm a Bendigo wine grower. I'm also a member of Sustainable Terrace. Sustainable Terrace was formed when the airport plans were announced, the terrace, by some of the concerned locals, concerned around industrialization of our valley. More recently, our sort of efforts are starting to shift around the concerns we have for the gold mine that's been proposed. So my presentation is really about that. I've got about 6 slides. Trying to do my best to get it into 5 minutes. It's an abstract of a presentation I presented to 60 of the local Terra Bendigo community 2 weeks ago. We're very concerned that the local community is simply not informed well on what these plans are for this very large-scale gold mine. Santana has organised weekly drop-in sessions, but the information that's being provided is very scant, unfortunately, and you need to know what questions to ask to then elicit the answers that you're after. So that's a challenge. We do know quite a lot already from material they have to present to the Australian Stock Exchange where they're listed, as well as a regular dialogue that we have with their team. And they're a very small company, very small mining company. There's basically 4 guys who make the majority of decisions on this mine. There's about 16 people in total working for the company. This was an article from the Otago Daily Times. The Santana mine will really be only the first new mine in our area. There's the Macraes mine already. I don't know how many of you guys have been to the Macraes mine. To get a sense for that, I would strongly encourage it on your next drive to the meeting, you go and have a look. Next slide, please. This is a pictorial of the Macraes mine. There's a bunch of different sort of structures there. There's the open pit where they dig out the rock. Most of the rock that comes out of an open pit, 90% of it is waste rock. That gets put into an engineered landform, or what they call there the waste rock pieces. The 10% that contains the gold goes into a mill where it gets crushed into fine dust, goes into a cyanide solution to extract the gold. That cyanide gets recycled, most of it. Some of it ends up in tailings dam where the mixture that comes out of the gold extracted soil then ends up. And that's basically a liquid slurry, which over time ends up as a solid or more solid tailings dam. The economics of a mine mean that you need to keep the distances very short between these structures, because the bulk of the money cost of running a mine goes into the haulage of these big trucks moving dirt around. Next slide. That's what an open pit looks like at Macraes. These are all pictures from Macraes. The first of the 3 pits that Santana is proposing will be about 1 kilometre by 400 metres wide and 300 metres deep. These are hugely invasive, sort of big deep pits. Next slide. There'll be an industrial processing plant with some of these big cyanide-containing vats which process the gold ore. And a mill just on the left side there. The mill is very, very noisy. Next slide, please. And then the tailings dam. The tailings dam is massive. These numbers are from Santana materials and from dialogue that we have with them. So big structures. Next slide. This is a location. That hill ridge there some of it will disappear. There'll be 3 pits that go into there, 2 creeks either side, and there's a little Battery Hill is the prominent little hilltop of that site. Next slide. And that is what that sort of structure will look like. There'll be 3 pits initially, well, 1 to start with, and then 2 other ones. The first pit will be quite a large pit with an underground section. The waste rock will end up in the top of Shepherd's Creek Valley. The tailings dam will then sit on top of the waste rock. So if you just look at that there, the bottom of that yellow piece will be the waste rock, and if we get dam, and then the tailings facility will sit on top of that. Next slide. So this is my last slide. These are some of the impacts on the region, on the local community that you may not be fully aware of. This side will be highly visible all the way from Queensbury to that hillside ridge. The land sits, it's within the ONL area under the district plan. There's a dock conservation covenant on it. And this will all be overruled by the fast track legislation, which is what they've submitted for and have been accepted under. There'll be flora and fauna impacts which they're looking at. It's quite a unique landscape there. It's 900 meters up, very extreme temperature ranges between summer and winter, and huge winds when the nor'wester comes through and blows into Matakani. Electricity requirements, it's really massive. It'll be the second largest electricity customer in the South Island, beyond Tiwai. We've got about 20,000 households. And whilst they're saying that electricity is green electricity because it's hydroelectricity, it does mean extra coal and gas burning in Huntly to feed the requirements of the North Island. So it's, and you see this also in their reporting, and it's the same at Macrae's, where they don't report Scope 2 emissions because they say it's all hydroelectricity that's feeding this. Diesel use, 65,000 litres a day. Again, massive water take. There's a big risk long term for the aquifer. These dams do leak. We know that. There's data on that. Noise impact will be dramatic. They're doing noise impact studies at the moment, looking at establishing a noise contour. That will affect people, particularly in the Argyle Valley. There'll be a perpetual liability issue beyond time that the mine company will be here that needs to be taken care of. That nobody really knows. There's new legislation under the Crown Minerals Amendment Bill that Shane Jones is trying to change to make it more attractive for mining companies to get around the perpetual liability piece. Housing, you've had some discussion with Damien on this last time, so I won't go over that. The big question around the workforce that he's promised will end up here is how many of these jobs will be existing local people that live here currently, and how many will be coming from outside the district in here, putting additional pressure on council resources and housing requirements. Traffic and roading is kind of obvious. Council probably needs to have a think about that because some of these roads will be council roads. And then there's a big question around the cultural direction of the region, whether that goes into an industrial gold direction or whether it goes into where we've taken it for the last 20, 30 years, which is around tourism, the environment and so on. And then a risk to you as council as well. Yeah, you're a small council, you've got limited resources. This is a massive undertaking to keep on top of in terms of resource consents, as well as fast track, which will require you to return a community opinion within 20 days of.
I'm going to have to ask you well past your time.
That's it.
As a community board, we're not the territorial authority. We don't have a great deal of ability to influence any of this, as you are aware. But do people have questions for Rob about this presentation?
Can I just jump in on that? One of the concerns we have is the lack of awareness and knowledge on this within the community, and how the community board may also be able to help a little bit with that. The dialogue with the community board has been a little bit wanting, I think, for us in Terrace. We don't really feel strongly connected. We'd like that to be stronger. Our region is coming under in for a lot of change.
Yeah,
and we're connected with the community board on that change.
Yeah, and certainly that community connection is important, and I know that Billy is speaking next to try and highlight what sort of voice we can get from Terrace, from the community board. But you know, Tamer and Peter and the staff here are probably, and our councillors are probably the people who will be tasked with a response to the proposal that's been put forward. We know fast track processes create situations where councils don't necessarily get the say that they would usually have in terms of things that are coming their way into communities, and so it often is a situation where councils would certainly put their views forward about mitigations for the risks that you have highlighted, and to think about what the impacts are for our communities. But we also know that within those processes, that getting that community voice in can be challenging. Has anyone else got things on there? Neil?
Yeah, I think from a community board and a council point of view is that some of the points that Rob has made are very relevant, and we probably need to get a report to us that tells us just how this process is shaping up, what it might work like, and what our opportunities are for any involvement are going forward, both at the board level and at the council level for that matter, especially if it ends up in it is likely to end up through a fast track process, but just to understand that, because if we as a board can get that information, then I'd expect there'll be some information that then we can make sure that our community is informed as well when we can work out what our role is, because in this situation I think it's a little bit different. We're not the we won't be deciding the consent, so we can probably take a different view as well. But unfortunately, the problem is that the fast track process effectively prevents some parties, and maybe community boards could be them, from actually making submissions in that as well. So I think the board needs to get some a report from the staff team to say this is how it's going to work and this is what it's looking like, and here goes your opportunities, or there is none.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think that's probably a really crucial point, is that we need to know what involvement we can have and what say we do have in that process, and we probably need some guidance around what that looks like.
And I would strongly encourage you to seek that guidance. It's our understanding that you will be an affected party, so you will be asked. And then there's also a question around consultation, how you form your opinion on whether this is good or bad, or what the balance of the good and bad is for the community and for the district.
Anyone else? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And next we have Billy Marsh, who is representing Tara South.
Yes.
Welcome, Billy.
Yes, yeah. I segue quite nicely, I think, into that. I'm not going to read that because it eats into my precious 5 minutes, but I'll put it there for your interest. Tēnā greetings to you all. I am Billy Marsh, a Paris resident of 20 years and wearer of several community hats. I talk to you today wearing the Terrace Community Plan hat. The Terrace Community Plan was promoted under the umbrella of Terrace Rural Women. I was a member of the group that worked with council to facilitate the consultation process. Today, I want to speak about one of the community plan's key value statements, Terrace Voice, and the role of council in supporting that voice. Terrace Voice is the up there, one. A key theme that emerged during the process of developing the community plan is the Terrace community wanting to have their voices heard on matters that are important to them. The community wants control over its own destiny. They would like assistance from both local and central government. They would like to see more involvement by Central Otago District Council, including follow-through and accountability. We want our views to be given due consideration. The fast-track legislation proposal casts doubt on whether or not there will be an opportunity for the community voice to be heard. When the Australian mining company Santana, their gold mine at Bendigo was accepted to apply for fast track, the Otago Daily Times headline, "Gold Rusher's potential contribution welcomed." It drew a measured response from our then Mayor, Tim Cadogan. He stated that it was his understanding the council had a role to speak for the community in the fast track process. Recently, Damien Spring, Santana Minerals Chief Executive, presented to the Cromwell Community Board. The board was told that Cromwell Town will most benefit from the gold mine. This could present a possible conflict of interest for council when speaking for the Terrace community. He described Terrace as living on the edge effect. Terrace is at the edge of CODC, ORC, Cromwell Community Board, the Waitaki electorate, and the province of Otago. The terrace community would like more contact with the Cromwell Community Board and not feel that we are out of sight, out of mind. I am on firm ground when I say that our elected representatives have a light touch or even perfunctory in their engagement with Terrace. The last word is from the Terrace Community Plan. The Terrace community is facing a lot of change and uncertainty, and this has been challenging for many. A key objective for this community is to feel heard and be heard on things that matter to them. It is important that local people are able to speak and have control over their own community and to gain assistance from central and local government on matters of local significance. Terrace has a strong community spirit and a commitment to building on that, to ensure it remains a great place to live, work and visit now into the future. Together, we can make this happen. Council will only have 20 days to respond under the fast track process. Santana have said they will be submitting their consent application in February. So I encourage Council to work with us to be ready to represent the concerns of their community. Ngāmihi, thank you for listening and thank you for the opportunity to speak so that my voice may be heard, because under fast track, it won't be heard.
Thank you, Billy. As when you emailed me with these things, I did say to you at that point, you have some really good points to make around self-determination and local voice. And I think for all of us in Cromwell and the wider Central Otago, that is a major concern for all of us and lots and lots of the things that are happening to us at the moment. And I did say in my reply to you that I don't have answers to what you've raised at this point. So what I'm hoping is that between what you and Rob have raised today, that we can have those conversations with the people within the council who can help us to understand what the process within that 20 days will look like, so that when the consent applications go in, we're ready to list. We've already done the listening and we're ready to make our responses to that. So we're a bit reliant on some other people to support us with that too at the moment, which I know is what Neil alluded to in his reply to Rob as well. So so thank you for raising that. I mean, you've got lots and lots of staff in here as well who've listened, and I've seen some nodding of heads about that local voice. So I'm really hopeful that we will have an opportunity to work alongside Terrace to listen. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? The Cromwell Community Board or Council has ever formally acknowledged or tabled the Cromwell Community Plan. Is there an opportunity to do that going forward? Sorry, the
Terrace Plan. The Terrace Plan did come to us through Rebecca Williams. It has been tabled for us.
It has been tabled?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and it has been talked about through its development. I think that Rebecca had seen it as an absolute model of how to pull together one of these plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to acknowledge Rebecca. She did that. Of work she did.
Absolutely.
Beautiful plan.
Are there any other members who've got questions or comments that they wish to make for Billy? No.
Yeah. We've got 11 months to the next election, and this community board is representing Cromwell, but we've got 11 months to find somebody from Terrace that could sit here and do that. Rather than sitting here as somebody who lives in town, who comes to Terrace when we know something's on, when we can make it work. I'd really like to see somebody from there as part of this group, so the conversation isn't stunted, that it is. But, you know, it's quite an outlier. It's a separate community to us, so we don't want to just amalgamate that into Cromwell. And it's really important that you are Terrace as a separate community. But, yeah, as a community, obviously, really great place. So any meeting I've ever been to, there's some real pride from the people there. Like, it'd be hard to find somebody that would be a good representative or that had the time for it. But we're really keen to see you put somebody forward for that when the elections come around.
Terrace and everyone.
I understand you have been given the job of being our representative.
I am one of, but I was the whole, and yeah, no, there's not just one community
liaison as such, so I think that could be tidied up as well. And because Neil's the fourth, is it?
Yeah. Nearly there.
The other
Yep,
role
that's
in it.
me. Yeah, I'm the hall. Yep.
Yeah. So
But
it's
it's a classic case of I'm there to provide that liaison, but it's sort of for the hall committee to say they want or need to have that as well. So and it's we can't impose ourselves either. So while there's someone available, there needs to be that connection. And I think that to take the key point here is it's probably appropriate to develop a stronger connection. And I think what Sarah's saying is that that there's an opportunity always for someone who is interested to maybe represent the more rural areas, if you like, and whether they get elected is another matter. But it's also another good way of another tool that can work and help make sure that the interest is the interest of the ward are well represented at the board table.
All right, thank you. Lots of good discussions to come, I believe, Billy. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, team, that takes us to page 7 on your agendas, which is the confirmation of the minutes. That's it.
There was just one little thing I think in this report.
Yeah.
I just got the Lake Dunstan Marathon. It says 160 participants, which included supporters, plus supporters.
And that amendment, do we have a mover and a seconder for? I don't move it, Nate, done that one. You want to move it, Nate, done that?
Yep.
Yep, and Sarah, thank you. Right. And then on page 13 is the declaration of interest and a reminder to members that they should stand aside from decision making should there be a conflict arise. Then that takes us to page 16 and the Bannockburn Bowling Club Accountability Report, which is item 24.10. Welcome.
Thank you. So my cover report is very brief, one page. And it really just to acknowledge that the community board gave a grant to the Bannockburn Bowling Club, and they are here to report on their magnificent new kitchen. So who doesn't think that?
I'd like to thank you for giving us the money. You were one of 6 funders for our new kitchen, and it's only got a few minor things to do to it now. So it's been in use for a couple of weeks, but there's still a few things to be done. Everyone's really pleased with it. There are some unexpected consequences as well. It's amazing what a difference a 3x5 metre attachment on the side of a rectangular building does. It makes the whole place look a lot bigger and a lot brighter, and it works a whole lot better as well. So again, I'd like to thank you for this. But this raises another issue that there are moves afoot, I gather, to stop councils giving such frivolous amounts of money to frivolous things that are not essential for life. I think that one of the roles of councils and community boards is to make the community a nice place to live. I think feel very strongly that you should still be able to make such grants as you made to us.
We certainly hope that that will continue to be one of our functions, because it is one of the things that gives us great pleasure, is to give grants to community organisations such as yours and then see the results of your hard work and bringing it to fruition for your members. Well done. When you first came to us with your grant, we were so impressed by how much money you had raised and how you'd gone about it. We're all very jealous, those of us who belong to other organisations, trying to find grant funding, wish to tap into your expertise. Yeah, so
My previous life, I was an academic making grant applications for the kitchen. was so much easier than writing to fund projects.
Yeah, so well done. I'm really pleased that that your group is really happy with the work that you've been able to do. We've only been a very small part of the total funding that you raised, so congratulations to you. Anyone else got things to add?
We've not for a cup of tea.
Do we need a community board bowling back?
You're welcome. You've got a club night tonight, and if you want to come out and have a cup of tea or a beer, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you for the invitation. And that does take us back to page number 16 and the report for us, which is a recommendation that the report be received. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Wally. All in favour? Gordon Neil's in favour too. He's just too slow on that year. I'm Mary's 3, so welcome back, Mary. Do like those bits that make us feel good. Righty ho, our next item, we're just bumping up an item that was part of the governance reports. We're actually heading from page 16 all the way to page 50 to the governance report because we had Craig here to talk about the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. Welcome.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for giving the opportunity to promote this pretty fantastic initiative that has been given to CABC. So I'm just going to talk for a few minutes about the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, and I'm really waiting. We really need to catch up at some point. So the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs it's a partnership between Council, Ministry of Social Development, New Zealand. So it's funded from the Ministry of Social Development. And the idea is it's about going out and finding young people between under the age of 25 who are not in full-time employment, education or training or are at risk of becoming so. And it's pretty cool. It feels very much like an ambulance at the top of the cliff initiative. And so what it is, so I go out and I try and find these young people, which is, the recent challenge times. And all the kind of things I can help them with is CV and interview preparation, applying for jobs. I do a lot of networking with local employers to try and find opportunities for them. And I find them towards work gear and training and so on. And so the idea is it's sort of targeted at those who just need that extra bit of support to try and prevent them potentially going down a track of longer term unemployment. It's not just a sort of case of also finding the young person, finding them a job and walking away. We offer that pastoral support ongoing as they're in employment. So we're with the employers to try and help that placement become sustainable. And so there to help with any issues that may arise. And so employers can really benefit from finding suitable staff, but very hard to match the right young person with the right role as well. So, so why am I here today? So the reason the ministry funds councils is they believe, and it's true that councils we know our community, so the money is sort of there for us to work out how best to find and engage those young people and engage the employers. And I was thinking, who knows the community better than the community board? So I thought I'd really come here and promote it to the community boards and the public about how it's helping me to find some of these young people and then also potentially find some opportunities. Because a lot of these young people, they're not necessarily going to pick up the phone and find me. A lot of the referrals is word of mouth that comes through parents, caregivers, friends, family, schools, and all of that stuff. So I've got a wee movie here that's two and a half minutes long, I believe. So it hopefully gives us sort of how important this initiative is.
action. So the magic of Mayor's Task Force for Jobs is that it's a movement. It started many years ago, and it's a movement based on the fact that mayors all over this country know that young people actively engaged in our economy for employment are the secrets of future success of all of our communities.
Yeah, I didn't really find school that great. I didn't like school too much. I wasn't a thinker, I did say, I don't know. I was more into outdoors sort of stuff and physical learning. I didn't have a plan when I left school. The MTFJ program helped a lot find a job. They they helped build a CV. They also helped with my full driver's license.
Yeah, it's been exciting watching Carlos grow and develop skills. It's been very helpful. So you go, that's one of the hobbies I think.
Without the MTFJ program, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. Yeah. So who knows what? But yeah.
It's been really beneficial for us, and it's great to hear the friendship with Carlos and his family. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could start his own business, you know, down the track, because he's got the skills to do it.
Brings people delivering real service, and I'm just really proud of that. It's not about a system, it's about people.
Well, my future now looks a lot brighter than what it did 30 years ago. So if you're looking for work, I'd recommend going and talking to people at MTFJ program.
We've been going since March, and we just recently secured some more funding. We had a pilot for 6 months, so we're currently funded till the end of June next year. And hoping we'll apply for more as we go on. And so I guess just to put it in a wee bit of perspective, I think since we started March, there's 16 people we've found employment for since then, and the majority of them have worked out really well. So yeah, so I love it if you were able to spread that word amongst the community. Okay.
You mentioned schools, and I know that between Dunstan High and Cromwell College, they've got the co-ed program running. Do you liaise with them around the work that they're doing to get people into employment?
Yeah, so the K, I think I know the program really well. It's a slightly younger cohort. Yeah, that's more 15, around 15 years old, I think. K. So, but I liaise quite closely with deans and the Gateway Vocational Pathways teachers. They're dealing with the older group. And the idea, I've had a few referrals from schools, and they're the students that haven't managed to find a pathway or been as engaged as they would like. So, yeah, but the very first success we had with MTFJ was from Cromwell College.
Right.
So, yeah, he hasn't been engaged in going to school, and he's now thriving in Thailand actually. So.
I guess the connection and the coordination between the people coming out of school without a pathway is one thing. How much success are you having in those kind of young people in their early 20s who are a few years out of school already? Are you finding them? Are they coming to you?
Yeah, I am. So 19, 20, I think 22 is the oldest person I've been working with. That was the young lady out in Roxburgh. Yeah, that's actually very successful. She's now working in the West Home in Roxburgh, and they're putting her through her study as well to be a professional caregiver. Yeah, there's been a few. Yeah, I think it's quite varied actually. I've had the whole 16 to 22 variety, yeah.
Do you deal with compo as well then if you've got 16-year-olds? And I've heard from them when Fran went into the job with them here that the kids that drop off because they're not old enough to be reported on the dole or to be out of work technically yet, but there's a gap there that's quite a ghost community that they were trying to track down a bit better.
Yeah.
Does that fall under you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I did work quite closely with Fran. I mean, we weren't able to work with the same people because that's the sort of ministry
Yeah.
guideline that we're both planning for our ministry sort of development. Yeah, but compost still has a presence here, but it's remotely probably.
It's not so much, is it? But yeah, there's quite a concern, you know, you don't pick up those people. If the school hasn't noticed them, they kind of quietly slip off the radar. By the time you do pick them up again, there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
Around that, there's probably work to do in that space there to keep those kids on. Well, just in touch, even if it's not engaged, just in touch, you don't lose them altogether.
So, yeah, and I mean, I know we interact with schools quite frequently, and but I think it's like, you know, I think running reasonably consistent. It's really, you know, everyone gets really excited, then understandably, the everyone's really busy and we sort of fall off their radar a little bit. So I do fairly regularly go in and go on to work with them. Yeah. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. It's really good to know what's going on in those spaces in our community, because as Sarah was saying, it does become sort of a lost group of people. If you've been out of work long term, it's very hard putting yourself back into it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
The rest of that governance report will swing back. Get it done now. Get it done now? Yep. Just yours. You're not looking at it, you have to do generic. The agenda has been fluid. It's not this. No, you're right. You're right, it is not what they're for, but it is what this one would be. So our status reports starting on page 50. Questions, comments, information?
Nothing from me.
No, nothing from anybody? We're all quite happy, yes?
Just give a wee update on the head sheet.
We'd love to hear about the ASG.
We are hopeful for some actual physical action. So,
But super. What type of actual physical action?
well,
In the man sheet.
I think most colleagues have prepared the site, so they may be able to get started.
Nice.
To build the piece.
Okay, so they're up for getting quotes.
Yeah, so there was quite a process. Yeah. But they are, yeah, I think they're not far in actually joined the ethics.
Great. That's good news. And thank you for the updates there on the Cromwell Memorial Hall project that are included as part of this report. That's really nice to be able to see that information in there. Is there anything you want to add verbally or?
no, we are. It's quite exciting. We've got a lot of structures still going.
Yeah.
We've had a few minor setbacks with the car park and road, which is with a few little processes like nothing that's going to affect the program. So we're on track. The few minor incidents are, we don't report them really because they're really minor, like a huge drove into the site when the gates were open for trucks. You were stopped, reversed back out. You know what I mean? It's that type of thing.
So it's very high level detailed reporting. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no lost time injuries. So it's really good.
I know that there's, now that it's starting to be a physical structure that you can see, there's certainly a lot of comment and the community of people, wow, looks big. And mostly the comment I've had.
And it will be quite flexible because it's all that structural steel. It softens up once you start covering the structural steel in the cladding place. And it softens up quite nicely.
All
I
right.
just asked a question about the finance side of things. I noticed in the project health, there's a reference to the contingency variation, or the variation to date of $686,000. I couldn't quite work out from the comment later on about the contingency, just where that's at in terms of the contingency. Is it within, without? Is it an issue to the total cost, or is it all looking quite as you know, the forecast that's there is still relevant even with those unexpected costs?
Yeah, absolutely. This part of the project where it's fixed price, it comes later on, and all the unknowns are up front. We tend to spend contingency up front. We're sitting at $600,000. I would have anticipated us being just over $1 million at this point in time, and we're not. So we're actually tracking really well. And we do a lot of pushback to variations because we're kind of saying you guys had the equations up front. There were a couple of unknowns, but you should have put in some PC prices for it. So I think we're tracking really well in this project. I'm thinking by the end of the time we get under the ground, we're probably going to be sitting at $1 million of contingency with $1 million in the bank. So quite comfortable in this space.
So with that comment, I might have expected that the last risk analysis flag, which is exceeding the allocated total cost, would be green, but it's orange.
But we still haven't got that on cost yet. So until I get that banked away, I won't put that as a green light.
So that's a cautionary orange from you.
Let's not get
Okay.
back to
I've got a question.
David.
Not construction related, but funding. There was hopefully $5 million being chased from the lotteries and community trusts and whatnot. So what's the status there?
So we've got, which we've really started drawing down on a commitment from CLT, which is about $1.8 million.
Yeah.
They've indicated to us to submit an additional application for another $1 million that we'll be taking next year. From OCT, they've asked us to submit an application as of 1st of April because that's the new financial year. Lotteries have got 2 applications, one heritage, one community, of $500,000 each. One of them is submitted early next year, and then one of them is about the middle of next year. And the RCFH, which is the big mutual cultural fund, is dead. It's being removed out of the system. So we are sitting there with our ears to the ground to see if another fund will come available, because that's usually what happens. And we're also waiting to see whether the provincial lotteries fund will be opened up again. And that we'll find out sort of May, June next year. So, and that's where big chunks of money gets allocated as well. So, yeah, ears to the ground, applications are already prepared. So, as they get submitted, we're ready to go.
Yeah. So we're on track with, I'm not sure how firm that funding hope for allowance was included in the overall budget.
So I never catered for anything in our bottom line. So we're full cost of the project. Everything that we get additional is a bonus.
Yeah. Cool. And the 1.8 mil from CLT, that was in the bank, though.
Yeah, that one's in the bank. It was originally 1.4 million.
Yeah.
They were allowed for CPI and giving that. That's 1.7 on 6. So just shy of 1.8.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And I think we've drawn down about $600,000 already.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Back to page 50 and the recommendation that the report be received. Over and seconder. Thanks Cheryl, thanks Wally, all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
You asked
Sorry,
for
Neil. Okay, so then, here we go.
Now we're going to go.
We're going to steam back up to page 29 of your agenda and the Cromwell Golf Club funding. Please. Welcome.
Hi. Right, I'm here to speak on behalf of Cromwell Golf Club. They're requesting financial assistance to help them remove some trees and reinstate the ground between a couple of their fairways. They're asking for $14,000 from their fund, which is currently sitting at just shy of 23, but it's not been formally audited yet, so that's where they're sitting. I presume you've read the report. Has anybody got any questions?
See, the trees are already down.
Yeah.
It's already been done. Yeah. Yes. It's that easy. They want to be able to take them down and control that rather than when deciding that it's going to take them down.
And they have that has been happening of late, you know, those trees have been falling down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're very desperate to now.
I think they took the email from Gordy, like, yep, let's walk there. And that's it.
Is there any further discussion around that. I mean, we know that the funding's sitting there for them, so I think that's probably. I know.
I've got a couple of questions, please.
Yes, of course.
I assume that all the lease requirements have been met in relation to making sure that the right approvals are granted for the actual the job itself, because that's separate to the funding. So I'm assuming that's all been carried, all been sorted out. And I'm sure if it hasn't been, it will be now that it's been raised. And secondly, related but not quite connected, because there's been a number of trees over the years have come down on the council lease land, and I'm really interested to hear, as a follow-on from this, is that particularly with the E+ Ultra Street frontage, that some consideration be given to the appearance by the club of that particular street verge, in terms of irrigating it and mowing it and looking after it, especially after now it's all been dug up, nicely levelled and regrassed. But in terms of the proposal here for the funding, I think it makes perfect sense to deal with what would otherwise be a hazard golf course or not.
Yeah. I don't think any of these programs actually reached that far, so what are you suggesting?
Well, I'd like to think that, like any other good property owner, they maintain and mow and irrigate their street verge and make it look presentable, and for the activity that goes on. So maybe that's already been taken care of, but if it's not, I'd like to think that it can be picked up and followed up on as part of this. I'm just taking the opportunity because you don't get many.
We can definitely have a conversation. They've got a fairly new manager in there. They've gone through a number of managers in the last 2 or 3 years, but we can definitely follow up that conversation.
Right. Thank you. So page 29, the recommendations are that the board receives the report and accepts the level of significance, recommends that the board approves funding of $14,000 from the Cromwell Golf Club Fund to assist with the removal of trees, and C, directs the funding be subject to the provision of a copy of the invoice for the removal of the trees. Seconder, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Molly. All in favour?
Vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. And we're pleased to know that at this point forward, Sarah, we are following the actual agenda and moving to page number 43 to talk through the 2025 meetings. Hello, Wayne.
Afternoon, everyone. So we've got a copy of the proposed 2025 calendar. Nothing too outrageous, I suppose you call it. There's most are on Tuesday, usual day except for February, where it will clash with the hearing both each Monday. And I guess in the inaugural meeting, which some may or may not be attending, but well, who knows? I think that's about it, unless there's any question.
I can colour in my own school holidays on there.
You haven't had too many colour options though, there's not one.
If you'd like, I could colour in the school holidays without being.
Just the whole, you just.
We actually have had that in the past, and I haven't done that this year,
Yeah,
but I
right.
can do that.
Right, no.
Okay, I think that's fairly straightforward. It's a very busy calendar. You only need to look, if you are just a board member, at the one colour calendar and not worry about the others.
Lest we forget that CEO can call a meeting within 14 days, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure in a meeting, either the CEO, the chair can call it during the meeting.
Yeah.
Or, let's say it'll be 4 members signing. So that one have a during a meeting to discuss.
I'm not usually so I'm top of the chair. Let's be all members, isn't it?
Well, there could be meetings, these are the ones that's scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know, like Peter said earlier today, might just have to shuffle some around for council timings, maybe at times. Even on an extreme end, we might even get on the same routine 2 weeks behind on front. Would you look for front?
I mean, it's very, Chair, as we go into the new training, the meeting of council and community board, they can form committees, the frequency is up to them to determine. So a new council may determine a different frequency and consult with the community board how it works.
Yeah, and council's only changed a year ago.
Yeah, a year or 2 years ago.
So it's been within this Australian
Well,
in 1 month.
Yeah. It was done a year before that, so yeah, must be 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 43 in the recommendations that the board receives a report, accepts the level of significance and adopts the proposed 2025 meeting schedule for the Cromwell Community Board. Thank you, Sarah. Cheryl, all in favour? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Mary.
Oh, I just had a really quick question because this is my first term I've ever been on the board coming up to the election cycle. So does the board stay until that last meeting and then is it disbanded? How does it work? What's the process?
Yeah, essentially that's what it is. So after the last meeting, then the board ceases to be a board, and then there'll be the election, and then on the 3rd of November there'll be the inaugural meeting where the board will come back again to start again a new training.
Yeah. So the final meeting of this board is the 16th of September.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. And that takes us to item 24.10.5 and the mayor's report. A new mayor to give us a new report.
This is exciting.
You can't even that. It's really been sat there for 2 minutes.
I did, here's something I prepared earlier. Good living, everyone. Right, I'm now 4 days into the best job in the district and delighted to be attending my first Cromwell Community Board meeting in person. This council, your council, has some work to do when it comes to restoring not just the trust and faith of our community, but also to enable the partnership between the boards and councils to deliver the best outcomes. We now start the conversation about delegations between council and boards. I recognise this did not go spectacularly well last time, and I believe that some steps have already been made towards drawing a line perhaps under that and beginning a process of discussions around openness and collaboration and best steps forward. So it was really great to be a part of that earlier. Community boards keep the local and local government. I think this should be the starting point for the discussions, and I look forward to being an active participant in this. The next 12 months are going to be some of the most challenging in local government, especially as we begin the conversation with our communities about what local water well means for them. There will be a role for community boards in this as well, especially Cheryl with her Three Waters portfolio lead hat on. A substantial amount of work is coming down the proverbial pipeline for all elected members, as questions will no doubt come thick and fast once we start talking to the public, and we all need to be across the information. On that note, I would like to thank all of you for your work that you do for this community. It is not always recognised, celebrated, and occasionally not even appreciated. But you are all doing amazing work. You are advocating for your community. You are championing the people of Cromwell's best interests. You are leading one of the fastest growing communities in the country, which is pretty bloody exciting. And I thoroughly look forward to working with you all over the next 12 months. Maybe not you, Sarah, but everybody else. And that is my report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And a mover and second.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Eva.
Less than 2.5 minutes, you can start.
And then we have the Chair's report. I have spent a large proportion of between the last meetings travelling, which has been a great privilege, but does mean that I haven't been doing a lot of stuff around and about in our local community. I did speak to the last two, the council meeting just prior to getting on plane, when the decisions about moving to a district funding model were made. And a decision has been made, and now we move on to that delegations discussion and think about how we bring this to fruition in a way that means that our board still has strong voice about things that are happening in our community. Other than that, I have spent time in big cities and tiny little communities and fjords and at ice hockey games and doing all sorts of wonderful, exciting things in other parts of the world, but feel incredibly grateful to be back in this corner of the world in our wonderful community. And that's very important. I'll move it. Second it. Thanks, Cheryl. In favour.
Right.
And members' reports. Over to you.
Always me.
Okay, over to you.
And then we just go, yeah.
No, that's okay. Okay. Yeah. On the 24th of October, it seems such a long time ago, we had the submissions for the district-wide funding model, which was actually quite interesting. And we got a lot of feedback, which was really good. And then, of course, obviously on the 25th, we had to make that decision about whether district-wide funding had come in or not, and it was voted in. So not unanimously, but it was passed. Let's see, there was a council workshop on the 15th, and I was lucky enough to go to, on the 24th and 25th of October, I was lucky enough to go to the Zone 5 and 6 conference with Emma, Tracy Patterson, Sarah, and Sally Fineman, which was actually, it was really very good. It was worth going to. We had a great talk from Craignell, which is the chair of Tomato ROA, talking on local would have done well. And there's obviously an awful lot more information that we need. And there's an awful lot more information that needs to be shared with the community so that they understand. I don't think we have our heads around it yet either. So there's a bit of work to go. There was also a very interesting talk from Nick Smith on the electoral reform and how he's doing work, so how we can get our community back engaged with the local government process and how we can get them into voting. So that was fascinating as well. It was all actually very interesting. Then on the 30th, we had our council meeting. Several submissions. One of the big items was whether the council should have a role in supporting museums, which has been topical ever since I have been a councillor. So 5 years. And it was good. There were some very passionate people in the museum sector. They love their museums. A lot of them are volunteers, and they're very passionate about their individuality. And so, yeah, I guess you could say the majority would wanted the status quo of something similar. So anyway, so that was so there's some more work to be done on that. And we got our new mayor. And then last night I was at the Cromwell Community House meeting. We received the resignation of one of the employees, so that position is now will be advertised, and they're hoping to have someone back, a new employee by February, I heard about, something like that. They are solely reliant on, well, not completely, but 98% reliant on grants. So there's a few small, a bit of money comes in from room rentals, but they are being hit with, like everybody else, with the rising costs. And so it's something that they're going to have to monitor pretty closely going forward. But yeah, so that's basically my report.
Thanks, Cheryl. This side of the table now, just a stir, so ADHD agenda.
Right, so going back to many weeks ago, terms 3, the focus of inquiry for Goldfield School was wide, looking after our water and waterways, and I was invited into school by Room 10, by a project group in there. I've had an awful lot to say on what we're not doing well enough to keep our water clean and green and safe. And really cool to hear some kids that are passionately engaged, to the point that we discussed putting more rubbish bins around so that not their school, but the teenagers from the college can put their rubbish in the bins. And it wasn't Goldie's kids. But we also discussed how much a bin might cost. I suggested to go home and ask mum and dad if the rates went up $50 so we could get some bins, how that went down. Next day, my wee boy comes home with an envelope for me from a girl that was in the presentation group, and in it she had gone to her piggy bank, taken her 2 gold coins out of there, sellotaped 2 $2 coins to a piece of paper and wrote, "Here's a contribution to the bins at Jolly's Road." And there's jobs around the house to make some more money. So I have returned the $4, but I thought that was actually quite remarkable for she would be 8, yeah, for an 8-year-old to take that level of understanding and ownership of something like that. I thought that was really cool. Actually, when I sent that through to school just to make sure she was acknowledged, and I bumped into her mum just after and had a chat with her. But I said it's quite encouraging. We talk about people not voting and not caring and everybody being anti-establishment and council against them. It's quite nice to go into a school where they're all open to suggestion and being helpful and being working together on something like that. I just thought that was really cool. And to go to that level of effort to put $4 towards the bins, so can we get some bins sorted for Jolly? And a little plaque on it probably as well. But really cool to see kids being so engaged across those projects about our community and our region and being proud of it. That's quite humbling to see. After that, the 19th September, the Kariako Cromwell celebration was on. Lots of very small people shouting hakas through to big people singing a little nicer. That was really cool. All of the schools and the college coming together down at the college auditorium. That was amazing to watch. With my sports hats on, I attended a Jazzmix workshop on sports fields for Cromwell next October, looking at vision for sports fields and what we've got now, what we need, where to add to, move to, how to grow. So looking forward to seeing the work come out of that and the workshop on Thursday that I'll be attending, hopefully a few of us will be, which is great. 12th of October half marathon. I was a team manager and spectator. I'm not going to get close enough to run it, but pretty cool to see so many people from out of town. We've got our school, we had 2 teams in from Goldies. I watched my 8-year-old sprint 3 kilometres because I hear about how far that was and how to pace himself, but he was doing the same leg as his sister and he beat her. Can't write that down. Same weekend was the Fire Brigade celebration, which was amazing to see how many people were down there with the trucks out and the barbecue going, and then that was a really cool weekend. Goldfields Duathlon was on the 20th of October. Good to see how many kids every year and families coming from out of town again and get involved. Great events. School do really well with that. And I know my kids certainly look forward to every year. On the 23rd of October, we went to the Polyfest in Queenstown, where all the local schools came over. And that was an awesome couple of days. Actually, I was only there for 1 day, but that's amazing to see. Just the manner and the pride from all our schools, and it turns into a bit of a competition now. And awesome Commonwealth represents itself very well, as with the rest of the district, but schools did amazingly. And then hot-footed it down to Dunedin for the LGNZ conference, led by our new mayor, which was really interesting, really informative, lots of really good speakers. As Cheryl said, quite eye-opening, some of the stuff. But great to have those opportunities to hear from most people. Last week on the 31st of October, I attended a Better Building conference with my work hat on, but very interesting to hear that just how out of touch New Zealand is, particularly the lower south, with building standards. And building standards are one of the lowest in the world for such a highly developed country. So even houses that meet building code are pretty poor. And as we watch these buildings fly up around us in tiny little houses, it's interesting to see how much work we've got to do there really to make these houses good enough to live in and sustainable for the future. And reducing waste as well. And it's good to see Abby was there from the waste team, taking lots of notes and taking it very seriously. So that was great, some really good messages out of that. And over the last few months, I've been part of the assessment committees and arts and rural travel fund, giving away money, which we all love to do. Lots of very deserving recipients there, some great applications. And unfortunately, topical from the speakers we had in the forum, but I missed the Terrace Community Action Plan on September 24th, due to another meeting at the same time. But one thing I would say is having been the rep for Terrace, but had a personal connection with a couple of people that were there that was easier to engage with them, that since those people have moved on, I've struggled to engage with that community as well. And that's something I think we need to do more work on. Obviously, very topical with those of us coming in today. But yeah, like Neil said, you kind of wait to be invited to some stuff, then you get the backlash sometimes for not being involved with things. And I think that I need to do more, and I will make more of an effort to find out in advance, but I think we all probably need to try and engage a little bit more with those outliers, not just the stuff that's on our page. And that's better. Thank you. Molly?
I've been flat out for the last couple of months, and I've done this stuff. So, just last weekend, Island Events and Web's group held an Orchard Row game, which was good fun with the kids. Met with friends of Cromwell Cemetery last week, I think it was. Suggested maybe they could come and speak at this meeting. Yes, they did. Attended the CDCT, it's Cromwell District's Community Trust Strategic Doing workshop 2 Mondays ago, I think it was. I didn't go to the follow-up one last night though, as you know. Cromwell Business Network breakfast in Bannockburn, where Paula Moore spoke last month. And this month's one is actually this evening at Southern Peak Law to watch the Melbourne Cup. 2 weeks ago, I went to Business South there in Yarn at Five Stags before going to the Te Anau Fishing Comp for Labour Weekend to teach my family some resilience stuff. Race day at Highlands on the 5th of October, it's good. Attended Goldfields Kids Duathlon, kids love that as well. Blossom Fest Parade, and then went to the Burnouts Speedway afterwards. Attended the Cromwell Fire Brigade Open Day on the 12th of October, and fireworks event just as we got back from Te Anau from fishing. I'm in the process of my work at the moment, moving into a new space in the mall, which is going to be good. So we're going to have some furniture up for grabs from the old office. Some of it's gone to the terrace hall, which is good home for it. But if anyone knows of other worthy candidates for taking office furniture would be good. I also note that Crux has ceased publication just in the last few days, and I think we as elected members and council should take that pretty seriously and support financially where they can, because it's just come down to money at the end of the day. But yeah, they fill a really good void in terms of media in the country anyway. So that's my report.
Thanks, Wally. Mary?
Kia ora. I have been like Anna, I've been doing a bit of travelling around. And of note is I completed the Heapy track, which was fantastic, and yeah, just a good reminder of how good our national parks can be, and managed to get fantastic weather, which I know is very rare on the Heapy, especially in October. So we were very blessed, considering a shocking weather system came through the next week after we finished it. Saw lots of takahe poo, but no takahe, unfortunately. And encountered a woman who was there to spot the South Island kokako, which was very interesting. It was her mission to spot it. She was there for 6 days. I don't know if she spotted it. Yeah, no. So no South Island kokako, no takahe. But yeah, no, it's a great trip. Anyway.
Thanks, Mary. And Neil?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just going back to the council meeting in September, and Cheryl's covered that pretty well. But there's also we've put in place, or we're looking at reviewing the alcohol bylaw that was left on the table, pending some information coming out of the Teviot Valley, so that'll be coming back shortly. Plan change 21 for Parkburn and plan change 20, which are the heritage precincts, were all approved for notification, and they're working through the process. The more recent meeting has been reported. We did appoint a new mayor. There is something that's going to affect this community, our community, which is the gambling and board venue policy. So that's going out for consultation, and that does propose a sinking lid. The idea being is that as machines drop off, that they would not be replaced. So that is something that will have a potential implication, depending on how you look at it. That one there was done. That went done. Yeah, I got to concur with Cheryl about the public forum about museums. That was really interesting. Some really good submissions, and as to where we're going to go with that going forward. So I think we gave this direction to the staff that they need for what's in the 25-34 long-term plan. And I guess that brings me to the key thing is that the 25-34 long-term plan is going to be quite significant. There's going to be a lot for the councillors and the boards to consider between now and when that is approved for consultation with the community. And whether our community likes it or not, they are going to be an integral part in telling us what they think, and they'll get a chance to do that through having seen the big picture, knowing what the numbers are, what the options are, and to give us some really clear guidance. Because as uncomfortable as the rate increase was this year, there is potentially another one coming. And unless we can find a way as a community to decide that we don't need to do certain things or need to do them differently, there's a lot of potential in there for that. So for the wider community, watch out for that. It's coming your way, and we really need to get people's views on that. And if anybody out there thinks that they'll get it, they'll have their view and that'll be ignored, then please don't think that. It will be considered, as it is always. And the other thing, as picked up by Sarah and Wally, on the 12th of October, the Cromwell Fire Brigade hosted an open day. I'd just like to acknowledge, in my role as a Chief Fire Officer, the significant support from the community. Great to see young and old alike coming along and having a look at what we were doing. And I can reflect that in the evening function, we had a good night celebrating the 150 years of existence, and it was pretty special to have 6 of our retired ex-members and 2 widows of members who were at the 100th in 1974 present at the 150th. We worked out that there's probably going to be some members of our brigade currently that should be around for the 175th and the 200th. Some of us certainly won't be. That's about my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Cheryl.
Got one other thing.
Okay.
The Warring Tree Cellar door is open. Just putting it out there.
That's a very good piece of information.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for members' reports, please? Thank you, Wally and Cheryl. All in favour?
Right.
And that takes us to the date of the next meeting, which is going to be the 9th of December. Then to the move to a resolution to exclude the public bits. Seconder for moving to public excluded meeting. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Sarah. All in favour?
Really good for that meeting, so.
The ministry one as well? No, that's not the ministry one. Please take a couple of minutes to have a comfort break and eat more cake. And we turn off one meeting.